Hey guys, welcome to another Six Sages Gaming Duel Series, and today I have for you a Final Fantasy X combo deck that ended up taking first place at a 74-man event out of Japan. So clearly it's got something going for it, and it could very well be the best Final Fantasy X deck. Quick note I want to make is we got our t-shirts in, so I know a lot of people have been asking about that. If you want to purchase a shirt, make sure to hit us up on our Facebook page at Six Sages Gaming, and we'll have more information about that. But I really want to share this amazing brew with you. As you guys know, water, wind is absolutely one of my favorite element combinations, and Tidus Legendary is probably my favorite card out of Opus 1. I haven't found a great solid deck for it yet. I think I like this one the most so far. I would change a couple cards, but you know what? They did very well with it. I'll have a link in the comments below to the description of the tournament and what else top aided. But this was the first place deck from that event, and obviously it has a lot going for it because it took first, and this deck is just an absolute home run. I am in love with it. So first we're going to talk about the forwards, then we're going to talk about the summons, and then wrap it up with the backups. So up first we have Hope. It's a 3-drop 7K. When it enters the battlefield, you get to choose one backup you control and activate it. This card, we're not playing Alexander, but it's really just for being able to play, let's say, you dull Aerith to pay for part of the cast, then you get to leave up Aerith for protection. And again, this entire deck has a sub-theme of being able to ramp into more forwards, or what I mean by that is accelerate your game plan. You'll see cards like Hope, Pain, Aerith. A lot of the different cards in the deck have a way to make you get multiple plays in a turn and help you flood the board a little bit easier or get a more offensive start. So Hope absolutely plays a critical role, and it really helps when we have a specific backup to combo with it, which we'll talk about later. The next 3-drop that we have is Yuge. When it comes in the battlefield, draw a card from your hand and put it on the bottom, or draw a card, take a card from your hand, put it on the bottom of the deck. This is an absolute must for 2 reasons. One, we are playing Emperor, so we'll talk about that when we get to Emperor, but also it really helps you find pieces like Pain if you want to have Riku and Yuna in play. It helps smooth out those combo pieces. It helps you draw into another Tidus in case you want to be able to combo off. It just does a lot of filtering for the deck. And again, it's a 3-drop 7K, so those are great stat numbers to have, especially against the aggressive decks when they might be at 5 or 6K. A card that I love, absolutely love getting to play with, is Pain. So in the perfect situation, it's a 3-drop 7K again, pretty fine stats as we saw with the last few cards, but if you have Yuna, which you'll see we play the backup, which is just so strong in this deck, you get to draw cards, so you're replacing something, but then if you have Riku, you get to play this card for free, assuming you have 3 backups, and I can't begin to express how amazing it feels to be able to combo off and play Pain, untap. Maybe you then play an Aerith, recover more things, and play another character. Being able to play multiple cards in a turn in that fashion and not having to be able to burn resources in terms of discarding is an extremely strong effect. I have always been a fan of the YRP, people call it, Riku Pain combo, and I think this deck specifically finally hits the home run on the 3 different copies that you should be running for this deck. I honestly never thought about running a Riku 2-drop outside of the mill deck, and I completely understand it. So huge kudos on that card selection. Speaking of more cards that help us ramp into the other effects, we have Onion Knight. Again, okay stats as a 4-drop AK, but when it comes into the field, you get to choose a backup you control and activate it. Again, you'll see that we have very key backups that we want to be playing, or it helps us accelerate our game plan. But again, Aerith is absolutely the #1 target that we're going to want to be recovering so we can protect our combo or protect our units from any spells or abilities our opponent may be playing. What card do we want to be protecting? Absolutely Tidus, and I love this card for Blitz Ace. Now, not only that, we mentioned that we want to be playing multiple forwards. We want to get multiple cards on the field, have 3 or 4 forwards at a time, and if you've seen, we haven't done a dual series on this deck in a very long time. But if you look at one of our earlier videos, you'll see that it's very easy to get multiple cards on the field, and Tidus is very often going to be a 9K or a 10K. And again, when we're playing Minwu, so your opponent just can't chump block him, his Blitz Ace becomes a very lethal, just devastating effect that your opponent has to respect. Now again, if they have like an Odin or something on the ready, it can be a little rough, but that's why we're playing Aerith or other ways to protect him or maybe bounce him to our hand. A card that I just never really got to play with, simply because I missed it, 100% honest, is Wakka. This card is just nuts. Status Reel helps us protect against things like the Golbez deck, so their break effect doesn't trigger. But more importantly, when he attacks, you get to choose a forward and buff it by, well, a ton when it comes to this specific deck. And again, we want to be playing the Tidus combo Blitz Ace package. So let's say we don't have a lot of forwards, but we have Minwu and we have just Waka and Tidus. It's going to be able to boost him to a 10k because he's going to get, Tidus will go from a 7 to an 8 because you have Waka. And then Waka gives him an additional 2k because you have 2 forwards. So just with those 2 cards on the field, you're going to have a 10k Blitz Ace forward that's going to attack for 3 or 4 or 5 times in a turn. And again, if you have Minwu, it's going to be absolutely devastating for your opponent. Either they're dying on their spot or they're losing their entire board and they'll just be dead the next turn. A card that has been a very surprising choice, but the thing I keep forgetting is it's all characters. So Bartz is an amazing EX effect, and having a 9k in a Minwu-based deck is just great value to start. But this lets you recover or activate all of your wind characters. This means forwards and backups. So what this allows you to do is be aggressive. You get to attack. Maybe you have to tap out, you're leaving up just an Aerith. Maybe on the first point of damage you can't interact with what your opponent's attacking with, that's fine. But then you'll see that we have Bart, and we also have another card called Sylph, or even Fairy, and we just get to recover our guys and immediately be defensive, or immediately be able to play more summons, because then we have the resources available. Absolutely in love with this card, and it's one of those things, if you're playing a wind heavy deck, or a very wind focused theme, like if you're playing Aerith, even just for that one example, having Bartz in the deck just does so much for you and can turn out some very, very strong turns in your favor simply because you then have a surprise blocker and your opponent's not going to be able to respond to it favorably. Now, the one card that I am absolutely in question of, but I can respect the choice between this and Yuge because they just go very well together, and again, it's a 9k, is Emperor. This is a card I've talked about in length in other videos, but you really want to be able to play it on, say, turn 2, where turn 1 you're playing a bunch of backups, turn 2 you're playing an Emperor, and then hopefully, very hopefully, finding a Minwu. Because even if your opponent finds an answer to this, or let's say they have another 9k that you then trade with, you get to find another Emperor out of your deck and put it onto the field. And again, there's not a lot of 9Ks in this game, so this is a card that's going to often stick around for a good amount of time unless your opponent has a way to either buff it or answer Minwu. So in that regard, it's a very great, absolutely great defensive card, but I could see it being something else if you guys want to change that one card. And sorry about that. And then lastly, we have a 1 of 6-drop Tidus. And again, this is really just so we have another Tidus to be able to activate the Blitz Ace combo. Yes, I've done some cheeky things where I've had a 9k Brave Attacker with Minwu backup. That has been great, but there's often better things that you can be doing in the deck. Then we're going to talk about our summons. We play a 3 of Sylph, choose a forward, activate it, and then all forwards you control get a plus 1,000 power. Just great on being offensive and defensive. So on the offense, you'll know that even a 1k power boost can be absolutely insane and help you be able to push through that little bit of damage, especially if you, say, Planet Protector and protected them from like Odin's and something. So it can very be great to push the damage in your favor. But also, again, being able to have these surprise blockers that your opponent's really not expecting in a Minwu-based deck is absolutely amazing. I will say I would like to see a 1 of Alexander in here just to have that additional answer to like the 5 or 6 drops. Maybe even when we get into Opus 2, that would be one of the things I would consider because the other 6 summons are absolutely locked for this deck based on our backups. So this is something you can have a little bit more flex with, but absolutely can understand why it's in the deck. Next, one of my favorite water summons, or actually probably my favorite water summon now that I mention it. If you are playing the Yuna backup, which we'll talk about in a minute, you absolutely should run 3 Fairy and 3 Leviathan. Making this card cost only 1 water crystal point is absolutely absurd. You get to activate one of your characters, which again, more often than not, you're going to be playing a game where you say, okay, I'll wait for my opponent to attack, then maybe they're going to attack with a Zidane or something, and then you're going to activate a Yuge, which they thought, you know, their Zidane was going to be safe. So you get to kill something of theirs, activate your guy, and you get to draw a card. That is just amazing value out of a card, and especially when we can get it down to a cost of just 1. A card that has been seen in most water decks. It can be a little expensive if you're not playing the 2-drop backup Yuna, but more and more people are finding that if you're playing a Golbez heavy meta, and let's say they do the Golbez and the Delita play, if you bounce Golbez and make them break their own Delita, then that can absolutely help swing the game in your favor quite easily. So it's always good to leave up Leviathan. If you're not playing in a very Golbez heavy meta, then you might want to play Moogle just for the extra card drawing and filtering. But because we are playing the 2-drop unit specifically, I'm a little hard-pressed to remove this card just because when you can turn it into a 2 CP bounce effect, it's going to be great for being able to, let's say, get through the last kind of points of damage you need, or make Tidus quote-unquote unblockable because they lost their best forward. Lastly, we're going to wrap it up with our backups. One of Evoker, just because being able to play it for free has been great. Another one of is Barali. Sorry for butchering that. You get to put them in your break zone and choose 2 of your forwards and activate them. Again, strictly activating our cards at instant speed when we have Minwu in field, or if we just have a bigger guy like, say, Tidus, which gets huge in a lot of games. Absolutely a wonderful effect as a one-of. And I think it's a very spicy one-of to have going forward. A card that I would like to see more of, but where our backups are kind of locked as is a one-of Archer. Can break backups of 3 or less. This is just a great answer excuse me, to things like Minwu if we're really having to struggle with them, or a Red Mage. Again, can't stress enough how good a Fire Element Red Mage card is. That can be a huge problem for this deck as well. Then the card that I mentioned earlier that I kind of completely forgot about was a Riku. It's a 2-drop backup, which is great. You'll see that this deck plays 10 2-drops, I believe it was, because you want to be able to play multiple 2-drops on your first turn. It's very, very strong because it turns on Pain, and then also, you know, maybe we get into a board stall that gives us an alternate win condition and just being able to mill a card, but more importantly, Mug. So whenever we draw the other one, that's fine. We get to play Mug, make them discard 2 cards, and we get to draw a card. So absolutely turning that what would be a dead card into something of pure value is a great spot to be in. So I think that is how I will be playing the YRP combo going forward. 2 of Scholar, I would say strictly for protecting Tidus, which might not be always true, but 99% of the time it's strictly for protecting Tidus. There will of course be other situations where it doesn't come up. And then really kind of the all-star of this deck when it comes to 2-drops, obviously there's a lot of good ones, but Yuna being able to reduce the cost of water summons by 1, again making a fairy only cost 1 or Leviathan only cost 2 is just an amazing bonus. Then we have a 1 of Nora. Again, this is just really for finding hope. It's an EX burst, so it's always fine when we get a free card. I think the 2-in-1, if you will, so 2 Hope, 1 Nora, is an absolutely fine package to run, but I could also see just not having this card. Again, oftentimes it's not going to feel necessarily the best to play it on 3, but it does give you another win drop 3 option, which the deck does kind of need. And it lets you, even if you just damage check it, if you will, or if you take a point of damage and that reveal as a top card, you're getting a free card out of it. So it's just a very helpful one of, which in theory gives you the 3rd hope in the deck. A 1 of Brother, again, this in that same line of theory, this gives us our 5th quote-unquote Tidus. And what I mean by that is, if you see this card in a match, it is just as good as drawing the 4-drop Tidus, because you get to play it and then draw that card, and even, you know, debatably better because you then get to have a backup out of it. Obviously, it's not always going to be the best scenario where you might just want to draw the Tidus that turn because you need a Blitz Ace and you can't play both per se, and then you have to wait a turn to do the combo. I get that, but it's a very nice card to have as a 1 of because it lets you search up those cards. And again, the thing to keep in mind is that it's any excuse me, Final Fantasy X forward, so you can search up Wakka as well. Again, this is one of those things like 99 times out of 100, you're going to want to be searching Tidus, but don't forget that there is other targets in the deck that you're going to want to be searching for at times as well. A 2 of Minwu, this has really been talked about enough at this point, but really it's just for the fact of you can block multiple things. You saw this deck has several different ways to get a 9k into the field, and it just sits there, and it can really wall off your opponent fairly easily. And then lastly, just a great card. It has so many uses, and it just goes in so many decks. Really, if you're playing Wind, this is just it's just an auto include. It does so much. If you guys saw our budget brew with the Chocobo and Knights, it gave our entire forwards hexproof, or they couldn't be targeted, sorry. magic terms. They couldn't be targeted, so our opponent couldn't interact with an Odin or an EX Burst. Nothing could save him, so the attackers were just lethal on their own thanks to Planet Protector. And again, the fact that when it comes into play, you get to recover or activate 3 other backups in the same way that Pain does it, it is just such a huge tempo play. And oftentimes when playing this deck, if you sculpt your hands correctly, you think about a couple turns ahead, there's going to be those insane turns where you play a Pain on activate 3 things, play a Aerith, activate 3 things again, play a Hope, activate something, then play an Onion Knight, activate something again, where you get to just play 4 or 5 cards in a turn very easily because of how many free quote-unquote castings that you get. So absolutely in love with this card. And then, as I mentioned, really the 2 all-stars of the deck, in my opinion, is going to be just being able to protect your combo and getting in those last couple points of damage that way and killing your opponent with style. So thank you very much for watching, guys. Again, I think this is just hands down one of the best Final Fantasy X combo decks that we have seen in quite some time. And again, I will have a link down below to the tournament report because I didn't want to butcher any players' names, but I wanted to say thank you so much to the Japan team for posting those lists. And there's a lot of very interesting brews that came out of that 74-player tournament, so I very strongly suggest you guys check them out when you get the chance. So you'll have to use Google Chrome to translate the list, but I promise it's worth it. So thank you very much for watching, guys. Let us know what kind of videos you want to see next or what kind of decks you want to see next. Don't forget to check out our Facebook page if you want a t-shirt. We'll have more details about that. And of course, share all our videos with your friends and get the word about Final Fantasy out there. We are very excited for organized play to start and cannot wait for this game to have some more supply and get those other issues taken care of very shortly. So thank you very much for watching, guys, and we'll catch you on the next 6 Sages Gaming Deck Spotlight. Have a good one.